Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Chelsea. I'm the program manager for the Region 10 Opioid Abatement Council, Gateway to the Rockies, or GROC. This is our December full council meeting. We do have a packed agenda with our cohort 1 presentations sharing out today being the focal point. We are going to start with some attendance and roll call. Remember, if you are a non-voting member, there is a link in the chat for you to check in. The oral roll call is only for voting members. So we'll start with Commissioner Dahlkemper or Commissioner Kerr.
Here.
Commissioner Marlin, you don't have an alternate. Thought I saw him come in.
He's here. He was here.
He was here, right? Okay.
You are remembering correctly.
we'll give him a minute. Commissioner Hollingsworth.
I'm here.
Commander Ayton or Luke Parr.
Commander Ayton, I'm here.
Thank you. Heidi McCollum or Stephen Potts. Sheriff Armstrong or Greg Demo.
Under Sheriff Greg Demo here.
We do not have Mayor Bud Starker. We are working on an alternate or a replacement for Mayor Bud and Councilwoman Sophia. So I will move on to Janine.
I'm here.
Thank you. We do have an agenda item for this, so I'm going to go ahead and call Tori Jantz or Troy Cooper. Dr. Story or Michael Miller?
It's Sarah, I'm here.
Thank you. Dr. Ryan or Emily Cooper?
Tim Ryan here.
Thank you. Marie Larson or Elisa Witt?
Hi everyone, Marie is here.
Thank you. Mary Berg or Barb Weinstein?
Barb Weinstein, I am here.
Thank you. Sarah Cassano or Dr. Sarah Gillingham?
Sarah Gillingham's here.
Thank you. Janie Barker or David Jocelyn?
This is Janie Barker. I'm here.
Thank you. Kristen Heath or Judge Jones?
This is Kristen Heath. I'm here.
Thank you. And then any voting members come in late?
Hi, Dr. Chelsea. It's Heidi McCollum. I'm here.
Thank you, Heidi.
And George Marlin, I'm here as well. Sorry, I had to restart.
Thank you, Commissioner Marlin. So we are at quorum with 14 voting members. Then we will transition into approval of the November 10th meeting minutes.
This is Leslie. If there are no questions or comments, I move to approve. You said November 10th. Yes, November 10th, 2025 minutes for GROC.
This is Barb. I'll second those.
Vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything, so these have passed. And we will go into the December 8th conflicts of interest.
Hi, it's Commissioner Hollingsworth with Gilpin County, and we do receive GROC funding. So we have a conflict, but not with anything on the agenda.
This is Leslie
Aye.
Dahlkemper with Jefferson County. Same.
Same. George Marlin, Clear Creek.
Dr. Chelsea, I can never remember if we do this here and where we sign in. Okay.
No, you just
I signed in.
Yeah, you just do it on your sign in, and then right after the conflicts of interest, I will read all of the non-voting members' attendance and conflicts of interest.
That's right. Sorry.
No worries. I think that takes care of all of our voting members. So we have, in terms of non-voting members, Amber Dower is our fiscal contact for Jefferson County. Amber Qatar is the Quality Outcome Program Coordinator for Common Spirit. They are an advisory committee member. No conflict of interest. Erica Hag is a school board member for Clear Creek County. She's the board chair for Resilience 1220, a board member of ECHO. No financial conflicts of interest. She's also an advisory member. Tanya Wheeler, Advocates for Recovery. They are a grantee of GROC funds. They will be presenting today as a cohort 1 grantee. Talia Rodriguez from Jefferson Center for Mental Health. They are a previous grantee presenting today on their first award. They also have an agenda item for Soterra Landing. Michael Miller is from JCPH, Jefferson County Public Health, which is a GROC grantee. They are also a voting member alternate. Theodora Barchewski is a grant writer for Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, no conflict of interest. Linda Behringer is the executive director for Just Living Recovery and an advisory board member, advisory committee member, no conflict of interest. Sharon Hawkins is our advisory committee member for Jefferson County Public Schools, no conflict of interest. We got Tori Jantz, and then, oh, Laura is here today. Thank you. We have an appointment update from Gilpin County Commissioner Hollingsworth.
Hi, you wrote it in the meeting materials, but we just had a switcheroo. We had a Commander Troy Jantz is going to be the primary voting member, and he is trading spots with Commander Troy Cooper as the alternate, who was the primary. And we passed that resolution November 18th to adopt that.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we have a brief finance report. So this is showing you the total funding available to date. We do have a financial transparency dashboard coming to our website. That is finished. They are just working on the coding to actually get it embedded into the website. So hopefully I get to show that to you at our January meeting. But the total funding to date is going to reflect all of the settlement money that is available to Region 10 from the start of the settlement in 2021. So that would be the $18 million. Then we have to include our expenditures. So in 2024, from the start of the settlement to calendar year 2024, we've reported $602,466 and some change in expenditures. So if you take the total funding to date minus the expenditures, you get roughly 17 million. That is what is going to get allocated into the plan. You have allocations, which do not mean obligations. It just means that we have projected money in that funding area. Obligated money means that we have awarded a contract for that amount of money. Then the unobligated money is the money that is available to us, but we have not awarded out yet. So when we think about how much our next request for funding applications or RFA is going to be, that would be the $9,231,175.71. You can see that this 48% is going to be our largest. That's, again, our not obligated funds. In terms of what we have obligated into our plan, we have 11% to treatment, 11% to harm reduction, 13% to recovery, 5% to prevention, 11% to planning and coordination, and then 1% currently obligated to admin. This slide reviews what awards are obligated where and how much money per Exhibit E funding area is allocated and obligated to that. We don't have a lot of changes in terms of our finance report or how much each grantee has expensed to date because we did experience that lag in contract. And we are still working, Amber Dower is still working on the back end of Workday so that we can get our Workday expenses to match our state budget allocation. That way we are just doing our diligence and tracking our money in a single format. I will go over this a lot more extensively when we get to the cost amendment later in today's meeting. Also, I'll pause for any questions on the financial report. All right. General updates in terms of contracting. Chat and EFRC have their Q1 reports due in January, so they are underway. Monarch is approaching their Q1 report in February. Mountain Youth Network and Resilience 1220 have their first invoices due this week, which is super exciting. Gilpin Parks and Rec was revised to a 12/1 start date, so the county manager has that contract for signing. Recovery Works, Denver Recovery Group, Lakewood Police Department, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office all have their contracts and are anticipated to have a 12/1 start date as long as they give me their signed contracts by this week. Jefferson County Public Health was revised to a January 1st start date due to some red line negotiations. The Omni team is progressing through their introduction meetings with all of our grantees and drafting evaluation plans. And then our eUna platform is launching for grantees on January 7th, 2026, just in time for December invoices to be submitted. Any questions on this? Awesome. Moving on. So our new website launched October 1st. We're still working on migrating some of that more complex content. The 2025-2026 calendars are posted to that new website with a subscribe feature. Only core voting members and members of the advisory committee or like the grantees will get a direct calendar invite from me for their required meeting. The public who wishes to attend those meetings should subscribe to the calendar feature on our website. All 2026 agendas and minutes will be posted on the website. The Google Drive will be retiring and only used as an archive for the inception of the council to 2025. And like I said, we do have our Power BI financial transparency dashboard coming soon. They're just working on refining the coding for that. There is a National Opioid Settlement Conference hosted by the Stedman Group coming up in June of next year. So I did want to gauge some interest in attending this. It'll be June 17th to June 19th. The cost is $625 per person before January 16th. In the advisory committee meeting, I am working on gathering a list of folks who would like to attend and have awards with other regional councils so that I can work on the back end with those regional councils on how we can pay for those grantees or advisory committee members to attend this conference. It might be where we pay for 5 and another region pays for 5. We might do a split, like a matching award, but I hope to have all of that information coming in January. I will pause here and open the floor for feedback. Commissioner Dahlkemper.
I have a quick follow-up question, and I'm wondering if we know how different this conference might be from the AG's conference that was just held.
This is going to be a national conference where the AG's conference was focused just on Colorado. So this will be all other state attendees. That is as far as I've gotten. I think they're still working on an exact agenda.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the themes are going to be very similar, certainly with that national, and I do understand it's national in focus and appreciate, what we might be able to learn from other communities regarding the work that they're doing, the challenges that they face, and more. But looks like we've got the agenda. Yeah, it looks like they're still figuring it out, as you said, fleshing it out. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Hollingsworth.
I'll just add that it is in Denver, and so I think the proximity is wonderful, and I think it's a great opportunity to send some advisory level participants, because those of us that work for counties maybe can attend through our county funding. Just a thought.
I do want to point out too that our next full council meeting is after this early bird deadline. So that would increase the price in people who want to attend. They don't have what the price is going to. It might go to $725. We do have a budget for this. Do we want to say like the first 10 people? Maybe up to 5 people, I can go ahead and pre-register. And then after that, those first 5 people, I need to come back to the council. Commissioner Hollingsworth.
Do you need a motion or you just need a reply?
Yeah, I would need a motion because we would be allocating dollars to this. And so I would have to make a purchase before the next council meeting, January 26th.
I'll move to that GROC funds 5 people to attend at the early bird price, hopefully, given that they're from different organizations.
Does that include me? So 5 people plus me, or 5 people including me, or am I not included in that?
5 people plus you.
Okay.
And I'll second. This is Leslie.
And we will vote by opposition in the chat. And this had passed. Awesome. So I will have an update at the January 26th council meeting on who we got registered for this and see if there's any other interest to go. And like I said, I will do my best to work with the other ROACs to get, or participating local governments, to get some matching awards in there. The next, I'm going to start with a letter of acknowledgement. As a reminder, letters of acknowledgement are within my purview to draft. They do not have any type of position to them. The other funding bodies and opioid settlement dollars use letters of acknowledgement to start to track who is getting funded where by what award. So this letter of acknowledgement was drafted to the Colorado Consortium for Prescription Drug Abuse Prevention, University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, for their grant writing assistant program. They are requesting $150,000 per year for 2 years, which is $300,000 total, to the State Infrastructure Award. They anticipate that this will support 40 applicants within opioid settlement funding grant writing. So that was the letter of acknowledgement that was drafted for them. Any questions on that? Perfect. So the next agenda item is a letter of support. Letters of support must be voted on by the full council. So this will be for a joint regional opioid abatement council application to the infrastructure share. The applicant will be Region 1, and we would not be a beneficiary of this award. So Region 1 is applying to the State Infrastructure Award for rural infrastructure support and legal support for all of the rural ROAC. This is something that Region 10 does not need. We have an excellent legal team. We have so many resources within Jefferson County. And I know for a fact that if I did not have Eric, Carrie, and Emma, that we would just not be contracting the number of awards that we have. We would not be leading the state and policy. So I think a letter of support is warranted for this specific application. The small caveat is that the regions have not yet responded. A lot of them are waiting on their councils to get approval to participate in this award. So what I'm asking for now is kind of a blanket approval that once we figure out what ROACs are participating in this application, that we can provide them a letter of support that the State Infrastructure Award invest in rural legal support and evaluation. I'll go ahead and open the floor for questions. Commissioner Hollingsworth.
Such a quiet group today. What is the timeline? Like, when do they need this by? Is this something we need to approve today? Can it wait till the next meeting and maybe they'll hear from some of the ROACs by then?
No, the infrastructure application is due January 18th. And so the Stedman Group is helping Region 1 lead this application. They are supposed to get back to me by next week on which regions are participating or if they are foregoing this application. And our next meeting is not until January 26th. So that's why I was kind of hoping for that blanket. If they do decide to do this, we see the investment. I can also just change this to a letter of acknowledgement.
Dr. Chelsea, question from me. Do you think in writing a letter of support, we are in any way harming future applications that do directly apply to us? Like, does this get counted as we did something for Region 10? I think probably not, but I think it's worth asking the question.
I'll defer to Eric.
Yeah, it's a good question. I do not believe, as this is set up, it would be considered money to Region 10. I think the only impact is the infrastructure fund is only so big, right? It only has so much money, and you are approving that money going somewhere else, which is perhaps perfectly appropriate. Just know that the pocket's a little smaller because of it.
And we do not have an application that we are submitting to the infrastructure award. So we're not kicking ourselves out of this round.
And that's a good point, because presumably the state has set aside a certain amount they intend to send out this round.
It makes sense to me to support this. I could definitely commiserate with smaller counties struggling to have the bandwidth to get this done. So I would support it.
You want to make it a formal motion?
Well, we're really quiet. I like to hear people's opinions. But yeah, I'll just make a motion to approve this letter of support. We'll see where it goes.
I'll go ahead and second. I'm comfortable supporting as well, barring any concerns that may come up before we close discussion.
And we will vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything, so I will have an update at the January 26th meeting on whether this was finalized and what the outcome of that, and then a copy of the letter. So now we are revisiting the Jefferson Center for Mental Health proposal from our previous two meetings. So this is in your meeting materials packet for voting members, where I did provide a context summary from our previous meeting. So Jefferson Center for Mental Health was a 2025 RFA applicant that did not advance, but some GROC voting members and JCMH leadership wish to pursue an alternative mechanism for funding. They have a proposal, funding options, and then a revise and resubmit from our November 10th meeting. All of these are in your meeting materials packet. The advisory committee's recommendation is to continue exploring funding this vital project. Even after reviewing the revise and resubmit questions at our meeting last week, the advisory committee still wants the council to continue looking at this. They also suggested the $2.5 million funding option. The executive committee felt that this proposal was ready for group discussion in October. So GROC has roughly $9 million in unobligated funds. JCMH is requesting $1.5 million for construction costs towards its Soteria Landing project. On November 10th, Commissioner Joel Kemper suggested an additional $1.5 million be awarded. That would bring the current recommendation to $2.5 million. Again, this $2.5 million is being supported by the advisory committee. I will go ahead and pull up those revise and resubmit questions. One of the questions specifically from Dr. Story was this comparison of the RFA rigor to the special interest project rigor. And so I did include a table here that compares their purpose, their use, the application requirements, the review process, the evaluation criteria, approval authority, transparency, fiscal oversight, timeliness, their specific fit for capital projects, the documentation required, and then just kind of like an example. After the RFA analysis from 2025, I don't believe that capital projects should go through the RFA. I'm not convinced that the RFA mechanism is the best for large capital investment. Capital investments require so much more scrutiny and individual evaluation, where the RFA is pretty structured and narrow in scope. I want to think through that a little bit more before I make that a formal recommendation to the council. But I do just want to throw that is my preliminary opinion. I just don't think capital should go through RFA at this point. I also think that the special interest project is a little bit higher in scrutiny because every voting member gets to see that proposal. All of the advisory committee sees that proposal, where in the RFA, you might have 4 people look at an application, that's it. And then everyone would only look at that application if it completely advanced to group discussion. So there are just significantly, again, more eyes, individual review on that special interest project. So they did provide a summary of outstanding questions, their capital campaign progress, percent secured is 7%. They provided a timeline for each of their categories. Then they provided a $1.5 million line item budget and a $2.5 million line item budget. In terms of timeliness, the summary takeaway from here is that they are looking to secure some new tax market credits. So bolstering their financial income now, which would reduce the loan amount for later. We also don't know when we're going to have another RFA for GROC. So just the timeliness of when they can be requesting money. Will the project replace or add existing withdrawal management sites? They aim to expand space and accessibility for clients. Why maintain ASAM 3.5 instead of higher levels given community needs? Explain the decision not to expand into levels 3.7 or 4. The priority for Soteria Landing is to ensure appropriate staffing to expend bed capacity for 3.5, which they think is the most needed at this time. While they recognize higher levels of care like 3.7 above would help address critical gaps, moving to a higher level of care requires significant financial resources and specialized staffing capacity. They do have a 3-phase approach into that type of expansion. And then they provided current statistics for discharges, including their total intake, successful discharges, and patients referred to hospital. Then they talked about future expansion plans. I will go ahead and open the floor for comment from the council.
This is Leslie. I'll just go ahead and jump in if that's okay. I wanted to thank Dr. Story and Michael for the questions that they had submitted, others who may have submitted questions as well, just so we can get clarity and ensure that the responses that were shared, meet the threshold that we expect to meet as GROC before approving additional funding. And also really want to thank the advisory committee for doing a deeper dive on this as well. And thanks so much, Dr. Chelsea, for framing it to let us know, again, what those key questions are, the responses, and more. Thank you.
Commissioner Hollingsworth.
Again, I'm just going to reiterate what Leslie said. I think that it's great the questions were asked and answered, and I appreciate the Jefferson Center staff for answering them very thoroughly to give us a better idea of their successes and challenges so far. And I think that the point about leveraging more funding with this being part of the pot of combined funding is really realistic. I want to just reiterate to people that don't know, I am on the Jefferson Center board as a county commissioner, but I don't have any personal conflicts with this. But I do sit in on the board meetings and listen to all the work they're doing to make this a reality. And just virtue that they purchased a building for $6 million was a big first step. And so they are in the process of selling properties. And so the intent is to consolidate the services here for the benefit and convenience of both clientele and law enforcement. So I think that's all. And then this location is closer to our rural Gilpin County. And so access could be improved with the closer location. And then I wanted to just say that the commissioners have received briefings on what the JBC is discussing as far as reductions going into the future. And a couple things that they're recommending be reduced are funding for substance use disorder programs and behavioral health administration. So knowing that funding for services is reducing, it only follows that funding for infrastructure will as well. So I just want to put in a pitch that this is a consolidated model that's going to serve a lot more people than the capital that we did fund for another entity. And so I think that the investment and the dollars will be well used and be a great service, not just to our region, but beyond our region. Thanks.
Janine.
I have a question, not so much about this project, but process. So with the special interest projects, like, is this advertised? Do people know they can apply for it? Like, what is that going to look like? And just to make sure transparency and that people are aware this is an option.
Yeah, so this is outlined in our standard operating procedures manual. It is getting added to our website. Basically, the current process is that they reach out to me and they work with me on crafting a proposal if the timeliness is there for a special interest project versus them waiting for the RFA. I take that proposal to the advisory committee. They weigh in on it. When the advisory committee thinks it is polished enough, it would go to the executive committee. They get a briefing on it. When they think it's polished enough, then it would go to the full council for a review or input.
And they know to reach out to you because it says it on the website? Sorry, is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah, that would be the initial. The special interest project initially arose out of the RFA, where reviewers were very interested in projects, but they didn't feel like the application asked the right questions for that project. So then I started working with grantees in the background. That has looked like this project coming forward to this council, 2 other projects getting connected with local governments for funding directly through local governments, or still just working on some partnerships building in the background, hopefully bringing more projects forward.
Thank you.
I'll just jump in, and I know I in the last meeting expressed support for the $2.5 million amount. And I've been thinking about the process there, and I think the hardest piece of this is, if I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the applicant, is trying to figure out the right amount to ask for. I think the RFA response was around 8 million with the hope that, we would kind of pick the number that's right. And then I think we saw an ask that was written that one way to frame Commissioner Dahlkemper's suggestion on November 10th was to say, actually, we think now they're asking for too little. And I agree with that. I think this is one of the best uses of dollars we will have made on this committee. And I think $2.5 million is appropriate. And I am comfortable with the process, given, not only did they apply to the RFA, but they went through the advisory committee. And was that a unanimous recommendation for funding? And so with them, we look more for, do you think this is a good project? And do you think this is the right dollar amount? I think that's kind of our charge. And I just agree with Commissioner Dahlkemper that $2.5 million is the better number.
I think I'd like to go ahead and make a motion if we're there. I'd like to move that the GROC support a recommendation of 2.5 million for Jefferson Center for Mental Health construction cost toward Soteria Landing project.
Second.
This is Marie. I'll go ahead and second that.
I'll give that one to Marie because she doesn't talk a whole lot. I have George's name in the minutes all the time. We will vote by opposition in the chat. And then just as a reminder, because I did not orally state that, Well, not a direct conflict of interest, Gilpin County Commissioner Hollingsworth and Clear Creek County Commissioner Marlin serve on the board of JCMH. JCMH is also a previous awardee of the GROC in Cohort 1 for the co-responder program with the Wheat Ridge Police Department. So they are not direct conflicts of interest. They do not have to abstain. I do want to note that Dr. Ryan was in opposition. And then that will pass. So I will continue to work with JCMH on their evaluation plan, their itemized budget. We will bring that forward to the council as needed, and then we will work on getting a contract, hopefully getting the funds released by February. And that brings us into our cohort presentations right on time. So we are going to start with JCMH. Let me find Talia in the chat and give you sharing privileges.
All right, thank you so much. Let me get that squared away for a presentation.
I'm going to go ahead and move all of the grantees up to a co-host. That way you can just go ahead and share your screen. I will give you an like a 2-minute warning. So at the 8-minute marker, because I budgeted 10 minutes for each presentation. So I'll give you a little 2-minute marker. And then I will cut you off at exactly 10 minutes so we can get to the next grantee. If there is time for Q&A at the end of your presentation, we'll go ahead and do that right on the spot. If there's not time, we'll go ahead and transition into our next grantee and do a bulk Q&A at the end. All right, Talia, all you.
All right. Perfect. And is Bonnie, are you in the house? I think I saw your name pop up.
I did see Bonnie at one point.
Right? Okay. Bonnie.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yes, I'm here.
No
worries. No one's responding to me.
All right. So go ahead and start, Bonnie, and I'll start driving I'll do the slides.
Okay. I'll apologize in advance. I'm recovering from a cold, so if I sound a little stuffy or have to use a tissue, that is why. But yeah, so I'm Bonnie Collins. I'm the manager of adult criminal justice services at Jefferson Center. So I also oversee the co-responder program. And Talia is here with us as well. She's our grants manager.
So for Jefferson Center, at the time, we had identified a critical need to hire more corresponders to enhance our partnership with the Wheat Ridge Police Department due to increasing demand for mental health crisis response. At the time, we had one corresponder available for Wheat Ridge, which was insufficient to meet the growing number of calls and client needs. And the police department was overseeing. So the main objectives of this award were to support the salaries of a corresponder and a case manager. The addition of one corresponder case manager and one corresponder clinician would ensure that community members receive timely and comprehensive care, especially as mental health and substance use crises were rising. It was our goal for the Wheat Ridge Police Department and Jefferson Center to respond more effectively to crisis calls and provide follow-up, outreach, and resource linkage. So thanks to this grant, we were awarded $150,000 with $287.50, which enabled us to enhance our mental health response capabilities in partnership with the Wheat Ridge Police Department, providing on-scene clinical assessments and connecting individuals to resources. So it looks like it froze. Okay, 1 second. Try this one. All right. So as mentioned, we wanted to hire and support a case manager and a corresponder with these funds to fully support the needs of our Wheat Ridge Police Department partnership. However, we had to pivot after receiving the award due to changes in our staffing plan. So we hired 2.5 FTE corresponder staff instead of a 1 FTE position. And this setup was more beneficial because the two corresponders were able to rely on each other for feedback, case reviews, and challenges that require problem solving, which also reduced staff burnout. We were also able to fully spend the award to support the positions for 15 months following a no-cost extension, meeting our financial requirements. In our proposal, we wanted to increase our community contacts by 10%. And in our first quarter, we were short of that goal. However, in the following 3 quarters after, we had exceeded those projections.
Okay, so for our successes, one of the biggest ones I would say was definitely the hiring of the case manager. That's something that is a need within co-responder programs, especially how our models operate, so that the co-responders can be out on scene, really focusing more on the clinical work and allowing the case manager to provide more of the follow-up and taking on those more low-level referrals. So that was very helpful for us. Also, just like creating more of a team dynamic, that's always been a bit of a struggle just because, not being able to have the funding to hire additional staff. So having, the 2.5 co-responders was helpful in that regard, so they could have more of that team dynamic, as well as having that case manager. So it was, it really assisted with just like staff morale, staffing of cases, all of those pieces. It also helped us to, we've continued, I would say Wheat Ridge is one of our best, one of our strongest community partners within our co-responder contracts. And this was really helpful for us to maintain that strong partnership. And it's something that we look forward to continuing. And then just in addition to just our outcomes, we were able to serve over, 626 clients and referrals. Okay, so challenges. So one of them definitely was the delay in the hiring because, like when we got the grant, then we had to post for the position. So it did take us a while to hire the additional case manager. We already had the in-house co-responders. They were already employed by us. So that was a simple transition, but posting that position for the case manager, it took a while to hire that piece. Another piece was just like the contract questions. I know there was some issues in the beginning before Dr. Shore came on with just the contract itself, the questions that were being asked as far as that template tool. But once Dr. Shore came on, that was extremely helpful, and we didn't have any more issues after that. Let's see. The other one was the gap in transition. So with moving from a previous grants manager to now to Talia, so there were some gaps there. So that was some issues as well. So that would be something we would want to reevaluate in the future to delay those types of challenges.
So after the grant period, the Wheat Ridge Police Department agreed to fully fund the corresponder position. So that's part of our sustainability and next steps. Though we had to discontinue the case manager role due to Jefferson Center funding limits, our focus is now on sustaining and strengthening our partnership within the Wheat Ridge Police Department. And we're continuing to seek new grant opportunities to restore that position and expand, again, our staffing, right? So we're also improving we have actually improved our internal processes and to mitigate for those risks of communication gaps that Bonnie explained. And we continue to monitor trends as more police departments move to corresponder programs in-house.
So yeah, we do have some success stories here. I'm actually going to read these that were provided by Kelly Williams, who is now our full-time co-responder with Wheat Ridge. So every encounter matters, and these stories do show how a single connection can change everything. Let's talk first about a man who lived under a bridge in Wheat Ridge over the overpass for more than 5 years. He faced several severe mental health challenges and had no access to his SSDI benefits. Through a ride-along, we built trust, helped a community member become his payee, and unlocked funds that led to immediate housing and a path towards stability. Today, his support system is stronger than ever. That's just one example. Another is where persistence turned into a crisis into care. A community member called 911, threatening violence to make people listen. When officers responded, they refused to talk. Our co-responder clinician followed up by phone, built trust, and discovered unmet needs, Medicaid enrollment, and food assistance. We connected them to Jefferson Center and continue to follow up to ensure recovery and stability. And finally, a story that shows how ongoing engagement can prevent homelessness and improve mental health. A client reached out receiving our number from an officer. They were in crisis, no income, facing eviction, and frequent ER visits for panic attacks. Initially resistant to medication, they became more open as we provided job postings, rental, and utility assistance, and connected them to therapy and food support. We continue regular check-ins until long-term supports are in place. These stories remind us that every interaction matters, whether it's a phone call, a ride-along, or a follow-up. Each encounter creates an opportunity for hope, stability, and recovery. Yeah, so lastly, we just want to, thank you all for the opportunity within the grant. It really was quite impactful for us. It assisted so much in just our staffing in developing our program and just the overall collaboration between Wheat Ridge and GROC. So we really appreciate the opportunity.
We have about 1 minute left here if there are any questions. All right, we will go ahead and move into Gilpin County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much, JCMH.
I am trying to figure out how to share my screen on this MDT.
WebEx is so weird. It should be in the very bottom middle. Otherwise, I do have your presentation. I can always share for you.
Do you have the presentation now on screen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. My name is Sergeant Matthews. I am a detention sergeant with the Gilpin County Sheriff's Office. Gilpin County was awarded a $267,000 grant for the purchase of 27 mobile data terminals and related equipment. The related equipment included in-vehicle docking stations and upgraded modems to actually make everything work in a mountain community. You can't always just rely on the cellular that's built into the computer itself. And we had to also update our antennas so they would actually connect in areas where cellular wasn't quite as great. The laptops and in-vehicle equipment allowed deputies to connect with Jefferson Center for Mental Health and other partners providing on-scene telehealth support and improving access to crisis services for residents and the visitors to Gilpin County. The award objectives, one was installation of the media device. It's the computer for the telehealth style approach. This became kind of a common thing during COVID. And after COVID, it came to be more of a reliable process to cut down boundaries and stuff. So another award objective, we had to actually mount these into the patrol vehicle. So we had to deal with a safe vehicle installation as well. Make sure that they're mounted to the car and they did not come out easily or fall or become a secondary impact incident, right? So, and then more connectivity in the internet to the internet in the field, so we can provide these services. Again, the computers have cellular built in, so we can take them from the car and dock if we're in a residence or whatever.
We had to draft policies for a telehealth co-responder service and train staff on the use of a co-responder model. Another objective that we started prior to actually doing the grant was the Partnership Rejection Center for Mental Health. This started when Tom was there, and they thought this was an interesting approach. Gilpin County, they didn't seem to think would have as many calls for service as some of the more larger metro areas. To this extent, in this case, all the computers are primarily used for co-responder services in Region 10 and compliance with the grant's restricted use clause. We also launched operational co-responder and partnership rejection center for mental health and identified the reporting matrices to include the number of calls of service per reporting period, the result of call for service, basic demographics of the parties involved, as much in compliance with HIPAA as we could. Award milestones. First was the procurement of the mobile data terminals, the specifications that was needed or like to be within them to allow them, as you know, technology changes a lot, allow them to be relevant in the field for the 5 years of the program as well. Then I had to procure and find the mounting equipment and also advanced cellular connectivity that was awarded to Cradlepoint, which offered excellent local tech support service here in the Denver metro region. Programming and installation of the mobile data terminals and in-vehicle equipment with the advanced modem. The programming took a little bit longer. We transitioned IT departments in Gilpin County during this time frame as well, so it took a little longer with partnership to get this actually done. Then we created policy, had it approved by command staff, and implemented it. Another milestone was the training on the use of the equipment and policies. All of the patrol division have been trained, and out of the detention, approximately 10% have been trained. Successes with the program. The grant was awarded May 15th of 2024. And as you know, it took a little time to research the equipment. Most of the summer I spent time researching and ordering equipment. We transitioned to a new county information technology vendor, which allowed us to do some more things in the field than originally thought with this program. Most equipment was issued and installed by February 28th. Again, during that time, we had all those embargoes of what could and could not actually come into the port, and it was taking forever. That kind of slowed down my vendor installing the equipment. We also reaffirmed our partnership reception center for mental health after they had some staff changes and retirements. I think there was also a loss of the mobile crisis response unit. Through Q5 reporting, a total of 11 calls for service where EMO was listed as a call type and telehealth was offered or there was a result of an M1 being placed. The installation of the MTs and related equipment allowed Gilpin Sheriff's Office to have portable connected equipment to facilitate a telehealth video mental health consultation. Previous vehicular connectivity was unreliable and problematic at best. I took that program over from one of our previous support supervisory staff, and I had to learn that a lot of them did not function in the field. And our patrol deputies were primarily assigned connected iPads that were sometimes connected to the car and sometimes not. Most of them had to come to the office and actually get their information for the day before they went back out in the field. So we continued to progress towards the goal of an operational co-responder while we met with equipment delays and vendor schedule for installation. We used this time to program the laptops and work out information technology vendor changes and their openness to mobile deployed laptops. Again, data collection improvements continue to evolve as program becomes more operational. Some of the challenges that Gilpin faced was equipment availability during the import restrictions. Like I said earlier, stuff was delayed in the actual ports for unloading periods during all that not working at the docks or something, if I remember right. And then policy implementation. once equipment was available and in stock, scheduling with the vendor to actually have it installed. Some other challenges: the reporting matrices changed during reporting periods and data that was asked to be tracked. Again, that was in early days changing. Once Chelsea came aboard, we did work out some matrix and some reporting guidelines that kind of helped as well. Then we had changes in leadership with partner agencies, primarily just a point of contact with Jefferson Center. Not that their support waiver, they still maintain the support with Gilpin County, which I'm thankful for. There was a change in the mobile crisis response team. I think my understanding, JCMH lost funding for that. There have been 2 reporting periods once the operational program became operational, which kind of aligns with Tom had said with JCMH, that their estimate of calls for service would be low. And that's one of the reasons JCMH said that they could actually handle the volume with the staffing they had at the time. Sustainability and next steps for Gilpin County. Continued partnership with Jefferson Center for Mental Health, increasing awareness of availability of the program within Gilpin County, working more with partner agencies within Gilpin to make this service more available, and continue ongoing training about the program's use with all staff, both patrol and detentions division. Post-grant funding for continued cellular use within the MDTE, which would fall back onto Gilpin County as well, and develop replacement schedules for the computers, the docking stations, and the modems as our vehicle fleet changes. And another sustainability step for us was to work with Omni on data collection improvements and program improvements. So with that is Gilpin County's presentation.
Thank you so much. And we have roughly a minute left if there are any questions. Dr. Story.
Hi. I was just about to put this in the chat, but does JCMH plan on doing co-responder services next season? I mean, it's because like part of the challenge was them scaling back on that. So how will that change moving forward?
Do you mean in reference specifically to the Gilpin Sheriff Award?
Yeah, because that was the sustainability of, so we have 11 calls for service in what reporting period. Part of the challenges was JCMH reducing their own funding for co-responders, so they didn't have staff. But then on the last screen, it says for sustainability, continued partnership with JCMH. So I'm just wondering where the staffing levels might be to fund this or to pursue this project.
Yeah, that's for me, for Sergeant Matthews, or for JCMH, I guess. Because my understanding, we're still in partnership. We don't have as many calls to deal with this as possible. I think some of the sustainability was an actual mobile unit coming to Gilpin County. If I got to that need. And originally, my original grant asking for was a follow-up navigator, and that one was not approved.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I guess I'm having a hard time, and maybe Dr. Chelsea, you could help me understand as someone who's relatively new. The money was spent on goods, hardware, that I assume are still being used, right, for other reasons.
Yes.
Okay. And if we're not doing the thing we thought we were going to do we get that money back?
No. So there
Okay.
is, so that all of the contracts that are being discussed today were drafted before my tenure. And so there is no clawback clause in any of those contracts. It was evident when I joined that none of the presentations being talked about today had any of the post-award implementation support that they required in order to be successful. So I think of cohort 1 as an experimentation year, to be quite honest. Gilpin Sheriff does have a capital purchase for laptops, which does require a 5-year use agreement and a 5-year reporting period. So we are doing a lot of capacity building with them right now, especially having the Omni team come in on what they are reporting on, how they can improve their policy outreach. So we are doing more capacity building and growth than any type of clawback. And then we did take all of these lessons and implement them in directly into the contract of cohort 2. So we do have clawback clauses. They do have post-award implementation support for reporting, invoicing, auditing, metrics. I'll stop there. See if anyone else has. I see Rhiannon like shaking her head. Yes, or Dr. Story, if you have any follow-up questions.
Well, we get to see and this all makes sense, but as the data is collected on calls for service, getting back to the original intent of the settlement funds, right? Overdose, overdose diversion, whatever, reversal, use of Narcan. I mean, that would be really interesting data. We have a needs assessment, obviously, being funded at this time, which will help like round out the story. I'm wondering if we could get, as a full council, like an updated, here's what we've learned, because what I'm seeing is a presentation, but not a synthesis of, to your point, lessons learned for the future. There are a million of them in both of those presentations. So I would personally love to have time to review that with a little more dig-in time, later. So thank you.
Yeah, and I will actually be fully transparent here is that I did try to do summary Q1 reports of all the grantees, but the evaluation plans were not clear cut, metrics were not clear cut, that it was too difficult to try to synthesize them all together. So we're really looking at cohort 1 as an annual report summary, and all of those awards are just now closing. So Omni will have some of that information in Q1 of next year. So we just didn't have the data infrastructure set up that we needed to in year 1. And with that, we will go ahead and transition to AFRC.
Hey, everybody, let me get my screen shared here. Okay. Hello, my name is Sean. First and foremost, I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm also the Director of Operations with Advocates for Recovery Colorado. And joining me in the presentation will be the Foothills Regional Manager, Sean Hedden. We've also got our Executive Director, Tanya Wheeler, on the line today. So project name, we started with the GROC region, and it turns out not many people outside of this room knows what that means. So we changed it to the Foothills region, Peer Recovery Support Services. The award amount was $494,863. These goals are just cut and pasted straight from it, so I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes versions. Those first 3 are staffing, and so that means that we brought on the 3.5 FTE peer coaches. Sean Hedden is the regional manager, and then we have the office/transportation coordinator. The objective 1.4 there is recovery coach training, so workforce development. And in the training we offered right after we received this, I think it was in October, we had 4 people. We were able to outreach 4 people from the GROC region for that training. And since then, we've had dozens of people in trainings, specifically because we did outreach or just happened to be that they wanted to take the training and they live in the region. Objective 1.5, program evaluation. So we connected with Butler, the Butler Institute out of DU, and they're providing evaluation for us. This 1.6, we did not open 3 centers. We only opened 2 after some stakeholdering and connecting to the Gilpin County folks. It seemed like it was going to be difficult to find a space in Gilpin. Additionally, it seems like many people who live in Gilpin are already used to like coming down to Idaho Springs for grocery shopping. So we just have our Gilpin coach working in the Idaho Springs office part of the time, and then setting up in the community in Gilpin the other part of the time. In-person all recovery meetings. So we have those launched in both offices. Well, the Jefferson one is launching within the next couple of weeks. But we are running those all recovery meetings. Additionally, we have 2 virtual all recovery meetings every week for people from around the state. So there's multiple options for people if they're looking to attend an all recovery meeting. And just little background on that, an all recovery meeting is a mutual support meeting, similar to like a 12-step program, only it's not 12-step. People don't have to identify as an alcoholic. We encourage crosstalk. They're a little bit different than the 12-step, but it's that idea of mutual support. Transportation services. I will talk more about that when we get to the challenges. But we do have the vehicle, and we are providing services for transportation. Recovery social events, that's something that we're never going to have a problem with. We crush it with events. It's kind of the heart of what we do that sets us apart from other peer support organizations is the community building that we believe in. So this one FTE recovery response coordinator, we wrapped that up into the office/transportation coordinator. Let's see, objective 2.2. So this is about getting Narcan into the community and providing overdose and Narcan trainings. Again, talk about a little bit more about that when we get to the successes. Objective 2.3, collaborating with already existing events and tabling and networking in the community. Sean's been doing an amazing job of tabling, probably a couple of times a month at least, showing up and representing AFRC in those spaces where we're needed. This objective 2.4 by month 2, expand our online presence by a 25% increase. Our director of community connections is a guru at this stuff, and absolute, like when we ran the numbers, it was like a 200% increase. So another one that was just blown out of the water because of our amazing team. And so I'll turn it over to Sean to talk about some of the milestones and successes.
Hey everybody, Sean Hedden, Regional Manager of the Foothills Program, also in long-term recovery. Just give you some idea on some of our milestones so far. We did hire a peer recovery coach in Gilpin, Clear Creek, and Jefferson County, along with a transportation coordinator. We actually just hired our promoted that person to office manager as our office coordinator as well. So we have all those positions. We also, like Sean was saying there, we've trained peer and family support specialists through our trainings that are from Gilpin, Clear Creek, and Jefferson County. We've done early listening sessions and needs assessments in the GROC region, a variety of different listening sessions that we've done. We've also purchased a Telluride. That is our transportation. I think it seats up to about 7 to 8, depending on how many you can kind of fit in there. And so we can transport people to any recovery related events that are happening, including like our events, including all recovery meetings, including if somebody needs a one-on-one coaching session, we can get them there. We also have done our first Narcan training and distribution event. That was in June. And that's kicked off a few different Narcan trainings. One that I'd like to really highlight is a milestone that we had working with the Ameristar Hotel in Gilpin, or Ameristar Casino in Gilpin, and doing Narcan trainings to different security of different staff of different casinos within the Gilpin County area, Black Hawk especially. We also have opened an office in both Clear Creek. Well, it's actually at the Clear Creek Wellness Center. So basically we have two offices there, one for Gilpin and one for Clear Creek County. And so those are where our two coaches are. And we also just opened, and I'm in the Jefferson County office here at 363 South Harlan Street in Lakewood, Colorado. So those are our milestones.
So some successes. I'll talk a little bit more on this one in the next screen, but Recovery Capital. Oh, thank you, Chelsea. Noted. Recovery Capital is a way to gauge a person's, we don't like to put too much heavy language, positive or negative, but improvements in well-being around their life in recovery. A big success for us is doing a peer recovery group with Recovery Works. We found groups are an amazing way to engage folks, and then getting them to engage in one-on-one services post-group. We've built some, Sean H. has done some great work building relationships with other regional programs. As he mentioned, that casino Narcan training is a quarterly event put on at Ameristar, but Ameristar has been amazing by outreaching all of the casinos. And so employees, security, night auditors, people from the casinos are showing up, and it's a really great way. We always do a good introduction into who we are, because you never know who's in the audience. There could be a staff member who's struggling on their own and may want to outreach us for more than just Narcan training. The recovery social events have been getting steadily higher attendance rates, and same with the Idaho Springs. It's slow, but if you've ever tried to start a meeting or a group that people aren't forced to go to, you got to sit with one or two people for a while and understand that that's the nature of how groups start. So Recovery Capital, basically what we see here is that people are saying they're happy with their life. They're where they're living is a benefit to their recovery, and they find their life challenging and rewarding without using substances. So challenges, and this is a call to action as well. Transportation services remained underutilized. Please, if you're in this region at all and you know folks who need help getting down the mountain to detox, to move into sober living, to get into treatment, if they need a ride to one of our all recovery meetings, please reach out to us. We've got this vehicle and it's being underutilized. The other challenge is the remote nature of Gilpin County. I had a buddy who moved up there a couple of years ago. He moved up there because he didn't want to be around anybody. And so we're dealing with that in Gilpin, in that we're just not getting the engagement from Gilpin as we were hoping for. So I'm going to talk really fast now. So what's next? We are committed to this region. We have never shuttered our doors on a region before, even after losing funding. So when this funding goes away, we will find alternate funding streams. We've never closed a location before, and we're not planning on it here. We're going to continue building relationships, and I'm just going to call it time because Chelsea's giving me the eye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll pause for any quick questions here.
Of course, I would have a real quick question, right, as you're trying to move us along. And this is super quick. And thanks so much for the great presentation and to our other two presenters for giving us a feel for what's working, challenges, and more. You had mentioned that you did some community outreach in a few earlier slides. And I'm wondering if you could just give us like the 30-second take on what you heard and if there's anything that you think is valuable for us to know as we think about this work and how we allocate the funds.
I think the takeaway that we got was partially the remote nature of Gilpin County as opposed to some of the Jefferson County, which is not remote, or Idaho Springs, which is close enough that it's a tourist destination. We also found that was where we found that transportation would be something that we should be looking into, is providing transportation. And so lessons learned that we should have listened better about the Gilpin. But when we listened on the transportation, now it's being underutilized. So, it's kind of a give and take.
Thank you.
If I just a quick suggestion, I think county departments of human services may be a great touch point if you're looking to find people that need transportation to services.
Make a note of that, Sean.
Got it.
All right, we're going to go into the CCHOP program.
All right, let me get my screen up. All right, have you got my presentation up? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Hi, guys. I am Elizabeth Gallagher. I am the director of the CHAT program, which is the Community Crisis and Health Assistance Team. We are Clear Creek County's co-responder program. So original award was for $199,260. And the objective was to use those funds to expand our program by hiring 2 additional personnel in order to expand our hours to 7-day-a-week coverage. There were 4 milestones associated to our first award. That was, of course, to hire a co-responder clinician, hire a community paramedic, complete training for them, and then implement the new hours once they were ready. So a community paramedic, part of our program, is a little bit beyond just co-response. We also offer community integrated healthcare services to help serve our over 60 aging population in Clear Creek County, in this community that is really kind of sparse with resources, especially medical related resources. So that's what the community paramedic position is. Our successes, yes, we did get to expand our coverage to 7-day-a-week. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. is our operating hours. We provided services to 1,016 times we provided services to vulnerable populations in Clear Creek County. So we count a vulnerable population being obviously the mental health, behavioral health, or substance use, elderly and at-risk adults, including individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities, at-risk youth, including those with intellectual developmental disabilities, and then homeless folks. Fortunately, Clear Creek County doesn't have a huge amount of homeless folks. It gets pretty cold here. It's not too hospitable, but CHAT is really the only program that kind of has that direct connection with law enforcement, where we can divert homeless folks who might be having contact with police out of the criminal justice system entirely. So we expanded our coverage. We served 1,016 times we had contact with folks. We provided alternate response 361 times. So another kind of unique component to our program is that in addition to co-response, which is when we go to a call for service alongside law enforcement or other first responders, and instead we know enough about that contact, or it's not a risky situation where we can go without any law enforcement or other first responder. So leaving them free to be, doing their core functions, and then still we can address that vulnerable person's crisis or their needs, and prevent them from getting involved in criminal justice or any other kind of first responder, kind of resolve that crisis without that additional level of response. So we keep track of when we are on scene with first responder, something that we can handle, and therefore say, hey, law enforcement, hey, EMS, hey, fire, you guys go back to your functions. We're going to stay with this person. We'll resolve the call from here. And thus, again, kind of keeping them out of any further embedment into the criminal justice system. And then the other thing we're kind of proud of is we're able to provide kind of the least restrictive means dispositions. So this means we didn't take them to the hospital. We did not make them go to crisis. We maybe got to divert them from going to jail or getting criminal charges. So 598 times we were able to leave that vulnerable person in place rather than take them to kind of a higher level of care. So those are our successes. Our challenges, I think you heard this with the Wheat Ridge program as well, but really the biggest challenge we faced was staffing. So that fourth position, it was filled, and then it was vacated shortly after it was filled. And ultimately it took us 11 months of the contract after the contract execution to get our full 4-person staffing. Part of what we did with those lessons learned is, really refined our recruiting and hiring processes. We're actually still doing that to just really make sure we get a candidate in there that is highly qualified, wants to work up in this rural community, right? The commute, if they don't live here, too terrible. And just are really kind of cut out for this crisis work, because it's definitely unique to other types of behavioral health, mental health support. And I didn't put it on this chart, but I think everybody talked about prior to Dr. Chelsea, it was a little bit difficult to sort of figure out what were we going to report on, when were our dates to report, how do we invoice, GROC, all of that stuff. And really Dr. Chelsea coming on board has streamlined all of that. I know she's really fond of saying we're building the plane as we fly, folks. And I would just say, yeah, that's kind of what happened our first year of funding. We built the plane. Looking forward, 25-26 GROC award will fund our program, all 4 positions for the next 2 years. So we will continue to provide expert crisis intervention, resource navigation, all of that stuff, really building, continuing to build the really strong partnerships. Advocates for Recovery just did their presentation. We've got a great partnership going with them where we can, support people back and forth, give referrals to Advocates for Recovery, talk to people about, hey, the All Recovery meeting, if you're interested, right? That's happening. Go. This is how easy it is to kind of get connected to them. So that's something that we work. Obviously, the primary goal of the program is to reduce or eliminate contact with emergency services and/or the occurrences of crisis through targeted interventions and resource navigation. And I think we're really well staffed to do that. We've got the right kind of people in the job, and we now have a good many months of being able to do that. And then the secondary goal is, of course, to help restore trust in public safety services in Clear Creek County. And we do that with our really strong partnership with law enforcement. We are actually housed under EMS, so that's a little bit unique, but that doesn't change our partnership with law enforcement. And then the other piece of that is really that community engagement, right? We want to be out in the community, showing people that CHAT is here, helping to destigmatize mental health, behavioral health. We go to the Advocates for Recovery's potlucks and their events that they have just to be there and just show our support for Advocates for Recovery, but also for the community and show them that, hey, we're here. It doesn't have to be scary to call 911. And then our final goal is, of course, sustainability. And the intent is to make CHAT just a permanent component to Clear Creek County's public safety services, the same way the sheriff's office, EMS, fire gets funded and paid and is available. That's the goal, so that we can be sustainably funded by 2027. And that's it.
And we have roughly 2 minutes for questions. All right, and then we will go to our last award, Savio House.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing my screen.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm figuring to share mine, so.
There we go.
Great, so I am Joshua Prine. I'm the Director of Development at Savio, and here to talk about the progress on our Blue STEM program. Our situation is a little bit different in that GROC actually submitted the application with Savio as the implementing partner to the Colorado Opioid Abatement Council. And the application was to support the construction of Blue STEM, and it was the funding the final $500,000 of our $5.2 million campaign for the construction of the site. And so it's the last piece of the funding needed. So as a reminder, Blue STEM is a family-centered program designed to keep families who are facing substance misuse together while they're in treatment. It's designed to keep families together in a safe, home-like environment where recovery and parenting can stabilize at the same time. So to facilitate this program, we are building 6 townhomes in Lakewood where families will live together, receive on-site family therapy with coordinated substance use disorder treatment and wraparound services. And our staff will be there on site 24/7 to ensure the children are safe and being cared for. And it will be for entire families, so it'll be for younger children, children up to age 18, could be partners, grandparents, whoever is really part of that family. And each family will reside in their own townhome, one of these 6 here, and then there's a 7th building there on the right that will be for our staff.
Josh, your audio is a little in and out.
Okay. Not sure how to adjust that. Let me know if it continues and
Okay.
try to go a little slow. So the construction began last fall of 2024 and has been under construction for a little over a year. And happy to say that it's progressing nicely. We're still on track to be finished early next year, probably in February. The framing and the exterior work is complete. The installation of the HVAC systems and electrical is all underway now. The drywall will be finished this month, and the interior finishes hopefully in January. Beyond the construction, we're also taking steps towards the programming. The program director has been selected. She's a long-term Savio staff member with experience running residential programs and also with this population, with parents in substance use disorder. So she will begin her role in January, and at the same time, she'll start making connections to other organizations and building partnerships. Then I know there's some GROC awardees that she intends to connect with. She'll also be finalizing policies and procedures. We're engaging with Circle of Parents, which is a group of parents with lived experience who will help inform and give input on ensuring our practices are appropriate for the population. So again, that work will really begin in earnest in the new year. But the main report today is just construction is progressing nicely, and we're probably about 2 months away from being complete at this point. And this slide didn't transfer over well, but we are intending a grand opening for February 20th. And we'll send along an invitation shortly to Dr. Chelsea so she can pass along to the group. You're all certainly welcome and encouraged to attend. But that will be February 20th at 12 o'clock. And we'll have ribbon cutting, lunch, tours, and refreshments. And that is it. I'm happy to take any questions.
And the floor is open for questions. I did drop the presentation in the chat. I know there were some issues with the audio for a couple of folks. But in summary, the GROC was an applicant to the 2025 Infrastructure Award. Savio House was our implementing organization. We were awarded $500,000 as a pass-through to Savio so they could work on capital construction costs of their Blue STEM facility. So that is a family sober living project that is anticipated to open February 20th. Sean.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I don't know much about this. Are there requirements like is there how much people make? Does that disqualify them? Like, is there anything we would know as people who could be potentially referring to Savio House, what the requirements would be?
Yeah, so the requirements, we would not take anybody that was in a stable housing situation. We don't want to move people out of stable housing into a program that is really designed to house them temporarily. So that would be one of the main requirements. They will have some level of involvement with human services and child welfare and any of the counties in the region. And that will help with some of the contracted costs will help with the cost of the program, of course, and then as well as Medicaid. So they will need to qualify for some funding is where that gets at, whether that's through Medicaid and DHS. Beyond, we are not expecting families to be making a large contributions or paying rent here. In fact, we are not anticipating that they would be that they'd be in a position to do that.
And I can work on getting those requirements from Josh and distributing them on the GROC website. As a reminder, all grantees are listed on the GROC website with links to their respective programs and their websites as a type of resource. Josh is also invited to all of our grantee service groups. So once the Blue STEM project is up and running, he'll be attending those service area groups and the quarterly learning forum. So you guys can do some exchange at that time. that brings us into our final agenda item. I have 20 minutes. I do need a critical vote from council members at this juncture. So we did, based on conversations at our August and September council meetings, we had roughly $4,814,361 available to call down from the state. In order for us to call that money down, it has to be allocated to an approved use. And then funds. So what I did is I did call that money down. I don't anticipate that we are going to expense it in the 2025-2026 calendar year. But we do want to start accruing interest for those funds. So in this is a printout of our state reporting budget. The cost amendment is we revised the strategic plan based on input from the advisory committee and the executive committee, just for the purpose of me being able to call down money by the November 15th deadline. Everyone is encouraged to look at not obligated money as movable. And so we have, again, that $9,231,175.71 in unobligated funds. So we can move things around the strategic plan. This is what the strategic plan looks like as a graph. The areas in yellow, we do not yet have a program that fills that need. So this column is going to be Clear Creek obligations, Jeffco obligations, Gilpin obligations. And that is just identifying the program that serves that need in that part of the region. This is the cost allocation, but again, I encourage you to look at that as a movable number. This number right here is all obligated. I cannot move that. This number, $872,749.90, I can move it anywhere I want at any point in time. It's a really quick amendment. So please do not get caught on the dollars at this point. And then this column, I will show you what that funding total looks like for that category. I think the most change happened right here in the recovery category. When I revised the strategic plan, I had to take the language that the council created and revise it to match Exhibit E. There was not always a one-to-one change. So I did go to the advisory committee and the executive committee to get input specifically on workforce development and what they were looking for when they meant workforce development. And that led to most of it being within the recovery space. Job services training for people in recovery or treatment, hiring or training behavioral health workers, training for emergency room staff, including warm handoff services, and then recovery-friendly workplaces. This was specifically requested by the Gilpin team within that workforce development verbiage. We do have some money left over in the prevention general. A bulk of our money is in this kind of like holding space for infrastructure staffing at government or nonprofit agencies. This is really just like a catch-all to move. Then let me go back to this slide. I want to pause there and see what people think of our strategic plan.
Quick question while people are formulating opinions. Under cost allocation, that is what is proposed to be put into cost so we can draw down the other dollars.
Yes.
Okay.
So that would match like that match is here. This money is not obligated. That money is there. It's there right now, but we don't have to keep the money there. So that's why I want you to look at these like not obligated as cumulative. So this is how much we have to give it our RFA. Then after our RFA is sometime next year, I go back into the cost system and I make an amendment and I move money around. So it does, I think this is probably the best place to see a summary of plan changes where I moved $600,000 from the treatment general. I moved $16,000 from the infrastructure general. I added $872,000 to the criminal justice general, and that got us like what this plan looks like. I did drop this in the chat too, so folks can see the full Excel. There was, I do want to disclose this. I did make a change to my salary line item. It was $150,000. This plan is for all of calendar year 2025 and all of calendar year 2026. So it's a 24-month plan. The money that was allocated just to my line item was only for 2025. So I did put more money in there so I could get paid for next year. If you guys want to keep me, I would like to stay. And again, we can move money around after our 2025 expense report, and we'll have a better idea of like how much is going to be expensed in my line item. Was an overfund. This is a holding space.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And then so if we approve this plan, does this plan require you to pull down any additional funding from the state that is intended for us ultimately?
No, I went ahead and did that at the beginning of November because the deadline was November 15th. So now this is the first time the full council is seeing the plan. The advisory committee and the executive committee did see this plan. I did just make a change from the executive committee, like in recovery friendly workplaces. We initially had this as expert, but when I got into cost to pull money, there was actually a recovery friendly workplace exhibit E item. So I did just change that. That aligns with our conversations. So this is just a final approval from the council, really just a notice, because what this looks like now is I am going to have to start drafting RFA materials that describe all of the things in yellow. So if I get your go ahead to do that, then I can start drafting those materials for review.
So Chelsea, as we're just taking a look at this, you would ultimately be looking for a motion to approve the revisions to the strategic plan.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have an opinion, but I refuse to state it before others have expressed theirs because I think I talk too much and I definitely want other people to feel comfortable participating.
I think you're good to go, George.
Okay. The treatment, my only thing I would change is I do think having some funding in the treatment category makes sense. I think we're headed for a Medicaid reimbursement crisis. I think treatment providers, we saw a little bit of that in this RFA, but I think there wasn't quite enough clarity for for applications to really make it to the funding round. But I really think there is an existing and growing need there, and I would like to have some funding available for it.
So I would not, in the next RFA, I'm not going to put a dollar amount with the funding area like we did in the first round, because then people get hooked on that dollar amount, and we want people to ask for what they need. So it's a cumulative $9 million for prevention, connecting people to need and care, and treatment of opioid use disorder. Right now we have 3.5 3.5 million in the treatment, but I can move, like, let's say we don't get anything for prevention, I can move this $600,000 into treatment. We can put all 9 million into treatment if we want. It's really just the content areas that people need to focus on.
Okay, thank you. I'm good then.
Okay. Yeah, this is a very unique budget. It's not like NIH, SAMHSA, NSF, or even a county budget where when we say we have $1 million to housing, then that's all we have. We can move money at any point in time to anywhere that is an approved use. It's super unique in that way. It also makes it very confusing. In the interest of time, because I have one more vote I need to get to, do these content areas look great?
I think that I think that they do align with what we've discussed. I'm happy to make a motion to support the revised version of the strategic plan.
This is Janine, I'll second.
Opposition in the chat? All right, last area that I need folks to weigh in on. We need to start thinking about when we are going to do our next RFA or cohort 3. So I have 3 options on the screen for you right now, and I'm open to other suggestions. We can launch a full RFA in March of 2026. That would cover all of these yellow areas, and it would be all $9 million. We would have a review period May through August, contracting September to November with a January 2027 award date. That way we are shifting everything to align with the state cost reporting calendar. Option number 2, this is my favorite, and this is also supported by the advisory committee, is that we do a small RFA, like maybe we pick just recovery or like just treatment. Honestly, maybe even just treatment service, just criminal justice involved, just that line item. Next, June and July, we review August and September, we contract October to November, and then again, it's a January 2027 award date to align with the state calendar. That smaller RFA will allow us to test the AUNA Amplifund portal and go through that. How do we post an application? What is that user experience like? What is it like to review and score applications in that new format before we just open the floodgates to 50-something applications? It also allows us to be a little bit more intentional with that smaller RFA to look at cohort 2 outcomes for their first 2 quarters and see what our need really is. Option number 3 is that we completely wait until 2027. We open the application February to April of 2027. We review May through August, and then we contract September to the end of the year with a January 2028 award. Again, realigning to that state calendar year, January to December. This would allow us the most time to build a stable infrastructure for our current grantees, as well as really look at our needs assessment. As Dr. Story mentioned earlier, we don't have a lot of that data on is this strategic plan the most appropriate for our region? Do we want to dedicate one of these solely to Gilpin County and one of these solely to Gilpin and Clear Creek County and one of these to all three counties to make really tailored RFAs? I will go ahead and open the floor for discussion. I would be looking for a motion to do, when are we going to release cohort 3 RFA? You also have an option to table this conversation till January. Commissioner Hollingsworth.
Just as a comment, I lean toward liking option 2. And part of the reason is that there's so much going on with state funding right now. And we all know they're going to be making deeper cuts for next year. And that time frame is after the legislative session. And we'll know more who's getting funded and who's getting cut, and what other requirements they're asking counties and cities to do based on legislation. I know it's a wait for those that are hoping to maybe apply for another aspect of their programming, but I think it has some value waiting that little bit longer.
This is Janine. Yeah, with option 2, I'd just be, be sure we picked the categories that are getting cut and that have the most need. And I guess, yeah, if we have that information, because it's post-legislative season, that makes sense. But I would hate to like pick the wrong things and then that not really be what the need is. So just a thought there.
I think I saw Dr. Story's hand.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt anyone. I would support tabling this till January and then coming back and making a decision, just so we all can kind of take a temp check on where we are. I personally am more supportive of option 3. I think that gives us a lot of time to do some beta tests, to get our evaluation requirements in order, to see how we do with like this whole special project versus emerging thing. And like, if there's an emergent situation in 2026, we still have mechanisms that are available to us. And also because I think that this last batch of funding was so robust and so like varied that I'm tired. Like that's like literally like we just did this whole thing. It feels like we just did this whole thing. I think we need personally, I would advocate for a longer sitting with the lessons season so that we come back really strong in 2027. That's just my personal opinion, but I would personally appreciate tabling until our next meeting when we might not feel so rushed. I guess that's a motion. That's a motion to table until January because 3, and I don't want to keep everybody.
I think I saw Commissioner Dahlkemper.
Yeah, I'm happy to table waiting to make a decision among GROC on which of these options we want to look at. However, I do have a follow-up question for you, Chelsea, and that is the executive committee of GROC going to have an opportunity to discuss this more fully prior to the GROC meeting so we can
Yes.
Or can we add it to our agenda if we're coming together before the next GROC meeting?
Yes.
To just have another check-in on it?
Yep. The next executive committee meeting is January 12th.
Okay.
So I can add that. I can add this whole conversation to
Great.
the agenda.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and then with the revised strategic plan, I have some stuff to go off of to explain what each of these would look like more.
Okay, good. And I think that'll give us an opportunity to maybe have a conversation, talk about pros and cons, also be able to come back and talk more with GROC, the larger body about those pros and cons and more. So I'm all in favor of tabling. I will second again that motion.
And we will vote by opposition in the chat to table the RFA deadline until our next meeting. All right, that has passed. I will work on a wrap up. Our next virtual meeting is going to be January 8th with the advisory committee. The executive committee will meet January 12th, and then our full council meeting will be January 26th, where we will revisit the strategic plan revisions, lessons in review, talk about brainstorming cohort 3. And that's it, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season.
Happy holidays. Thanks, everyone.